Hello and welcome to Black Film. I'm your host, Ro Carter. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Ernie Hudson on his new project, Quantum Leap. How are you, sir?
I'm very, very good. Thank you. It's great to be here and talk to you.
Thank you as well. So, a couple of things. Quantum Leap, I don't want to call this a reboot because it really isn't a reboot.
No.
But with that being said, what made you take on a project like this? Because you were involved of a reboot as well, right? So as one, you being an actor and as a fan, like, were you like hesitant about taking this role on, or were you interested in like seeing where it could go?
Well, yeah, I was really interested in seeing where it could go. I watched the original series back in the late 80s, 90s with my two older boys. We used to watch it and talk about just the idea of time traveling. I mean, that, was always captivating. And when they came to me with the project, and I realized I didn't want to reboot. I felt the original series, what Scott Bakula brought to the role, you can't,
Yeah.
you can't duplicate that because it was him, But when I met Raymond Lee, who is our doctor who does the leaping, he's so charming and just has a very universal humanity that and so I was excited. I am excited about the show. So yeah, the possibilities of just because it's very thought provoking. The idea of if it's possible to time travel and the decisions we make that affect everything that comes. Does that open the door to parallel universes? All those thoughts and ideas come to play, and I personally am fascinated by it. And so to get a chance to play in this one was really exciting. Also, I was really obviously known for Ghostbusters, but what I love about that franchise is it really does reach multi generations. Little kids like it, old people like it, and I felt Quantum Leap has that same potential that people can watch the show, and it doesn't matter what your persuasion, political or whatever, you can have a discussion about it. The idea of walking in someone else's shoes. So yeah, I'm excited about it.
Well, I'll be honest with you. If it wasn't for this interview, I went in there with so much hate. Because I was like, you can't reboot it, and so I think NBC needs to do a better pitch of pitching the show. I mean, when I watched the show, I was like, oh my god, this is great. So not to give it away because now you're on your season finale, but Ernie Hudson, his character is Hubert Magic Williams, and if you watch the original, he was actually the guy in the first original Quantum Leap. And so Sam Beckett went into his body. And so you touched on that in one of the episodes. And I was like, oh my God, it blew me away. And I was like, oh, this is great. I love this idea. And so I think I'll tell anybody who, after I've seen this now, it's like, you got to approach it. They're just adding on. It's a sequel to it.
Right.
It's a reboot. Right.
Yeah. I did one reboot that we did with, with Ghostbusters, and that doesn't work. I mean, come on. If you loved it enough,
I respect your honesty.
If you loved it, leave it alone. Now this is 30 years later. We obviously technology has advanced. Ziggy, our computer, artificial intelligence, we're at a different place than we were 30 years ago. We can do more. And this one, because I was always interested. The first iteration was about the two guys, but we didn't see much of who's putting this whole thing together. And so now we get a chance to see the people who sacrifice to keep this thing going, especially Magic, who, like you said, was from the original series, who had this situation happen to him that totally not screwed up his life, but it definitely had a huge impact, not all positive. And so that was fascinating to me. What would happen if that, I lost a couple of days and suddenly I found out I did all these amazing things and saved lives, and how was that possible? So it just opened up a lot of possibilities. But it's 30 years later, and it doesn't take away from the love of the first one, which I was a fan of, but it opens up other possibilities.
Yeah, the writing is amazing. It's genius writing, because it's so interwoven into each other, right? And so you feel that, on the screen. Like I felt like that was actually you. You do such a good job. What I wanted to also add to that, it seems like any role you take on, like, um, when I grew up, and I want to give you your flowers. You are our first Barack Obama. And what I mean by that is you had a proton pack, on. And when I saw that on screen, I was like, you know what? I can be anything at this point. That's, and so you've gone from that to running three guys, three scientists, being a cab driver, running three scientists, and then you running a prison in Oz, and now you're running another group of scientists. How is it that every time you just get on screen, it feels like you're the head guy?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we actors, we bring our own sort of energy, and maybe people see a certain thing. I always look at that and I never had a real job. When I don't consider acting a job. It's how I make my living, but certainly no job where I've had the authority to. I don't even like directing, so. But I think it's something we bring with us. I've done other characters, but maybe there's something. Maybe it's in the voice. Also to be at this age, well into my 70s, but I don't have that. I'm not physically diminished, so maybe a little bit of all that. I'm not quite sure. People see, um, yeah, people, and they bring you to certain roles. I see all the characters, uniquely different, but also see the similarities as well.
Well, to top of that, you've been in this industry for a long time, you know, and you've seen this industry evolve, right? Open up
Yeah.
doors for the people. Has that changed the way you go into a role or a scene now? It's a more sensitive era as well. So, I mean, you were in the times where you could just do whatever you want on screen and you see what happens and see what sticks. And
Right.
now, has that changed the way you approach certain things, or you always been true to the art and just you can do what you want?
Well, yeah, I think you try to be true. I mean, well, first off, we're telling a story, and you're not the only one telling the story. So you want to make sure that whatever I add to it is honest. I mean, I can't just jump in and do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I've met a few people who do that, but it's not how not how I was trained. So I have a job to tell, but you want the characters to have integrity. I mean, to be honest, to be believable in that world, in that situation. um Anyway, I've lost the question now, but um yeah, I think when you approach a character, but you want to, if you can get to the truth of it, and sometimes you'll be in a situation where they don't want that character's truth. They want you to sort of say the words, and I agreed to do a movie. I did it, and I thought we can talk about this, and we can say, wait a minute, this wouldn't happen. Let's do it a different way. And they weren't open to those suggestions, and I to this day regret that. Sometimes people say, trust me, we'll fix it, and then they don't fix it. But these guys on Quantum Leap, they're very, very good and open. When I went into it, this guy, Magic, is a military man, and in the military, I'm an admiral. You obey, and I'm like, I can't be that authority guy. I don't want to be just come in yelling at people. That detective from those old series where he go, "You get your butt in here," and
That cliche role, yeah.
so he's as a human being. Where is he? And you hope that humanity comes across, because now it is much more diverse, and the casting, and I hope it continues that way, and not try to revert to what was not that long ago. I mean, it was not that long ago. I mean, you just didn't see diversity. So but also, I think not just in diversity in terms of characters, but diversity in terms of their humanity, and where they're trying to come from, just individually, not because he's a black man, but it just as a human being. Here's who I am. And So I'm excited about that. If you look at the original Quantum Leap, and I
Yeah.
love the show, I'm a big fan of the show, but it really was kind of a couple of dudes, having fun. It is a series for its time, but things have changed, and it's changed for the better, I think.
Well, and that was the beauty of the show, in its originality. It dealt with real issues, right? So when Sam Beckett went to a character of a black person, if you're a white person that never understood black people, you had to go, you were like, oh, wow. I
Yeah.
never thought of it from this perspective, When he became a woman, you had to think of that. Oh, wow, I never thought of it from this perspective. And Sam was such a good actor. Scott Bakula was such a good actor at really like being in the role, like putting on stockings and like doing this. And so I don't think we give him enough props. And shout out to Raymond Lee. You see him doing that, right? When he's in this role, he's trying to like fit into this character. And I really love that. And you see that on screen. It comes out well.
Yeah, that and I hopefully it opens us up to not just discussion, but because right now, things are so,
what are you talking about, Ernie? Everything's great right now. What are you?
Yeah. Well, it's great depending on where you are. It's
yeah,
exactly. But I think it allows us to go, you know what? Because it's quantum. What goes into every little decision we make. We think it's only this thought I'm having now, and that's. Yeah. But this thought is from God, everything that goes into this. And then there's consequences. And so we don't allow other people sometimes to kind of go, you know what, given that circumstance and all these elements that went into making that, it's an awful decision, but I can at least acknowledge the fact that, from where they were, maybe it was the best decision on the table. So, I like that part of it.
There's a scene, I forget what episode. I think it's one of say 3 or 4, and you're talking to Ian Wright, his character Mason Alexander Park, and you're like, "Come on, let's take a walk outside." And I love that the way it was kind of like the adult in the room, like, "Hey man, we got to talk about something." And so I love how your characters is able to go up and down on so many levels. You can be the guy in the room that says, "Hey, this is what's got to be done," but you can also be mindful of who else is there. And how much is that is you, or how much is that is the character?
Well, as I get older, I used to, when I first started acting, I thought I could really be a totally different person. And I would sort of strive for that. And as you get older, you realize that every character is a version of you, in different universe, different time, different story. And that's what I really wanted to. I didn't want to be, because a lot of times when I play those really hard characters, I'm like, I don't see, why is he this way? I don't really feel honest. And so if I can bring my own humanity, my own honesty, that's kind of what I would like to. Now, sometimes you play a character, that's not the story. But if you're going to live with something for a long time, like a series, you want to make sure that I love the fact, especially for Magic, because this probably is the only part of his life that works. He's assembled his team. He has a place here. He has a purpose here. His personal life is a little bit of a mess because he spends so much time at work. And so to be able to, he's pulled these people, he's chosen each of these people, and to be able to say, wait, hold it, to be the adult in the room and to sit them down and say, let me explain, so you understand. And as a dad, I was a single dad to my 2 older boys, but there are times when you kind of go, you know what, I understand. And but there's some things you need to know. So you can see the total picture. I think it's so important when parents or anyone doesn't take that time, even though they may be aware of that thing, but they don't take the time to sort of show you the bigger picture. It can be really detrimental.
And you bring that on the screen so beautifully, the way you just explain, hey man, let me just tell you what's going on first. And I think, you made me look at how to manage a team, right? It's like, how do you get everybody to do what you need them to do? And there's that trust. And a lot of times you don't see that trust on the screen because everybody's got something going on. But eventually, and you see that in a couple of episodes, right? There's other teams that are trying to put something together. And at one point you're like, you know what? Hey, we all got to be on the same page if we want to achieve the same goal.
Right. Yeah. And also being aware of, they have their personal stuff. I think it's one where me and Jen, and she has issues with her dad and does one. I'm like, you know what? All that stuff, is at play here, whether you know it or not. So we need to make peace with that. We need to you need to be aware that I'm aware, but at the end of the day, we got to do what we got to do. But in order to do that, you need to be whole. You need to be, because you think that doesn't affect. You think I can shut somebody out and it won't matter. It does matter, and yeah. So yeah, I think it's part of his, that whole, I guess, leadership approach. I mean, if I'm going to work with somebody on a project, that's what I want. I want to know that they're aware of me and there's a concern and they expect the best from me, but not, but they also care about me, and they want the best for me, not just from me.
I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. I mean, I was like, wow, I forgot you almost have worked with everybody in Hollywood at some point in your career. So when you go into a role, like, what's it like on set in terms of like, what you want? Can you read at this point in your life? Can you go on to something and be like, this isn't for me right off the bat? Or are you still willing to give things a chance?
Well, I like to give things a chance. I mean, because once again, it's down to trust me. A lot of people directors say, well, trust me, I want you to do this thing. And I'm like, man, I ain't feeling that,
Yeah.
I really trust them. If I really think they're, talented or creative or whatever, I'll even go out on a limb sometimes. But when I'm seeing, and nah, man, I'm not, because it's going to be my face that people are going to see. I'm going to be grocery store and they're gonna be going, why'd you? I saw that thing and they're gonna tell me what they really think. So, and that's why the writing becomes so important. But also now, the motivation. When I was a single dad or my kids were small, I needed to work to pay the mortgage. I don't need to pay the mortgage. The mortgage is paid. The kids are grown up. So I'm like, why do I want to do this? And I want to be able to tell myself I did it for the money, if the money was the reason. Or I did it because it was an amazing role that I just really want to play. I'm really desperately looking for that role, that signature role. I don't feel I've had that yet. Or I did it because I really love the people and it was just going to be a lot of fun. But if I can't give a legitimate reason, then I need to stay at home. You know what I mean? I don't, sometimes I get asked to do things on some location. I'm like, nah, man, it's freezing. I'd rather be home, but give me a reason to sign on.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you hinted on it earlier. If you had to be another profession outside of acting, what would it have been?
Well, I started out thinking of myself as a writer and wanted to write. I wrote some little theater pieces, went to Yale School of Drama as a playwright, came out to LA, but because I had my kids and I was a single dad, writing takes a long time. And so, you'll have meetings, they'll talk, but you still haven't got paid. Acting is immediate. You go in a room, they say they want you. Even if they change their mind, I still get paid. So I put off writing. I thought, well, there'll come a time when I'll deal with that. But now I sit down and I find, man, I just don't have the patience, to just, it's much more difficult. But I used to love it. And I think if the acting hadn't been steady, I would have probably just kept my focus on the writing part of it. Also like architecture too. Maybe when I was a kid in school, I liked drafting. I liked drawing, that way. But I would say if I was an actor, I definitely would have been the writing part.
And when you started off, did you have to put it all in? And I mean by that is like, I even tried the acting for a little bit, moved out to LA. But I always tell people, if you're ever going to move out to LA and do that, whatever money you have in your mind saved, times it by 10. And then on top of that, you definitely need to have time and free time, but you got to work to pay bills. And
right.
So, you're invested in that. Did you have to put it all out there, or just you work like odd jobs in the middle of the night? Or you were like, no, I'm all in. This is what I got to do. I'm going to be a successful actor. I'm going to be this.
Yeah, no, once I discovered acting, which was on stage in Detroit in college, I just thought, okay, I'm in. So, my prayer is, God, I'll do my part, you do your part. I really believe in the universe and God, or whatever you want to call it. I believe there's a guidance. I believe you have to quiet yourself and listen, but I believe there's a part of you that knows exactly what you need to do, but you got to trust it, because it doesn't always make sense. But when I came out to LA, I'm like, and also I was being a single dad. It was hard for me to say to my kids, this is America, and you can be whatever you want to be if you work hard, and I can't do what I want to do. It was important for me to demonstrate to them what's possible. So I would go into an audition, and they would say, "Well, thank you, Ernie," but I knew I hadn't gotten it. I'm like, no, no, I'm not leaving until we're going to do this again. And I didn't want people to say, well, they're not hiring, Black people. I'm like, dude, I just need one job. I just need a job. I'm not trying to get all the jobs.
Yeah.
I want this job. I don't care if it's written Black. I don't care how it is. I'm doing this role. And I never doubted it. So I was having dinner with Joe Mantegna, Joe Pantaleone, and Tim Daly. And they were talking about all the odd jobs they had to work. Once I committed to being an actor, this has been it. One way or the other, I got to learn how to live a certain way. But
because it gets to your head a little bit, right?
Yeah, before you go out and buy that big house, you might want to think about, I have one son, I won't mention his name, but he has a way of, when this happened, I'm like, dude, I can dream, but I can also deal in reality. This is what I can do right now. So
work within your means.
Live within your means, and all that happens would be great. But you know what? I can't trust that. But I've never. I think you got to be. Yeah, you just got to pay attention, man. You got to. I would love, when I saw those tennis players and they'd be in that crouch position because they don't know how the ball is coming, and the guy's going to hit the ball. And if I got to go to the left, to the right, whatever. And I think acting or whatever profession, you got to listen for the sounds. You got to watch for the signals. You got to be ready to move. You've got to be tuned in. And the most important thing is, that Bible story about the brides who were waiting for the groom.
Mm-hmm.
And the I don't know how many there were, 12 or something, but at any rate, they all got busy doing other stuff, but the one just kept preparing, making sure the candles were lit, making sure you got to make sure all your candles are lit and you're ready. So when the opportunity comes, it ain't no question. You ain't gonna be lost somewhere and find out later that they were looking for you, or suddenly now you got to do something and you gotta memorize this stuff, but you still high from last night. You know what I mean? You got to be on point. And then the rest of the
two analogies from Ernie Hudson. Two analogies here: tennis and the Bible. I love it.
Yeah.
Ernie, another question for you here. So again, I'm gonna go back in time just a little bit. I had an interview the other day with the cast of Wakanda Forever, and I asked them. I had with Ryan Coogler, and I asked him, "Did you know how big it was going to be when it first came out?" So I'll ask you the same thing. You worked on two big, projects that just blew up, and one was Ghostbusters. And this is in my mind. You might tell me something else, but Ghostbusters and Oz. And so, as an actor, question for you is, how does that feel? Do you guys feel that energy? Do you feel that energy on set? Like, this is going to be huge. And then the other question is, when you first feel that in one, and then another job happens again, does it feel the same kind of tempo, or does it change?
Well, yeah, each one is kind of uniquely different because, it's like getting up to bat. You know what I mean? I would imagine in baseball, and when you make connection, you know what I mean? I'm expecting it to go over the fence. It might get close to it. It might not, whatever. But I think, okay, we're up to bat. We're doing the show. The show is on. And so you hope you're on the right team and you hope it all comes together, but you never really know until it's all kind of put together. But you sort of go in. Sometimes people can disappoint you and you kind of go, oh no, okay, but you never know. I did a movie called Rocks the Cradle.
Oh yeah, that was another classic.
I love working on the movie, but I never thought anybody would see it. You know?
Really?
Yeah. But once you see it all edited and put together, and you kind of go, "Oh wow, that's what we were
You
doing."
said that over Ghostbusters. There's a state of Marshmallow Man.
Well, when I read the script and I laughed, and when I can honestly laugh,
Okay.
it made me laugh. So I knew Ghostbusters would be, most movies, it comes out maybe if you're lucky number one, and then you got a couple of weeks, and then it kind of goes to the next thing. But the fact that after a year, people are still talking about it, 5 years, people wearing jumpsuits, 10 years, they're turning their cars into ectomobiles.
Yeah.
20 years, they're still wearing backpacks. Like, okay, but you can never know it'll be that kind of, and I'm sure Ryan, with Wakanda, there's no way that it would touch hearts the way you hope. You think, oh, this is a special one, but I don't know I don't know. Otherwise you'd say, I'm going to wait for that special one.
Yeah.
And the one that you don't think will ever be whatever. You just never know. But you hope. They're all your babies, so to speak.
Yeah, you're also in Basketball Diaries too. I mean, you
yeah. I don't know if I ever got a job because of Basketball Diaries, but I love working with Leonardo, and I love that character. And so if you can come away feeling good about the project, then that's all you can hope for, and hopefully other people will like it. But if they don't, you can't base that on, almost like winning awards. If I had to base my career on all my awards, I would be like, man, I'm like a failure. My shelf is empty back there, But you just go, you know what, man, I'm gonna swing for the fence, do the best I can, and after that, it's out of my hands. It's in the hands of the fans, God, who knows.
Yeah, I mean, you have a huge fan base, man. It doesn't matter any awards. You've always been. When I see you on the screen, I'm like, I'm gonna listen, and see what you do. So I love that with your characters. Last question for you before we end. I do a show called Rewind with Ro. So if you could rewind one moment in your life, it can either be in your acting life or in your real life, what would it be?
Wow, if I could rewind. Wow, that's a deep question, man. If I could rewind a moment, the only thing comes to mind, maybe choosing a manager that I stuck with for a long time, and I knew better, but I thought business and friendship was, all tied together. And I found out that it was neither good business or good friendship, 20 years later. And then I look at the impact on my career, and I kind of go, you know what, my heart was telling me, but sometimes you don't listen to. So maybe that. I know that's probably not. I don't have many regrets, in my life. I've been very, very blessed, but I made some choices on a career-wise that I think, those weren't good choices, and not with the work so much as with choosing partners, in terms of management. You know what I mean? It's that I would definitely rewind and do some of that over again. I had to work over.
That deep, but thank you, Ernie, for your honesty. I appreciate that here. So Quantum Leap will coming out the season finale. Are we picked up for another season yet? Are we still trying to hear that, or?
Oh yeah, we're still trying to hear that. We just got picked up for the full season.
Oh, awesome. Okay, that's good.
Hopefully, it'll continue to impress fans, and we'll get another season. I do that family business. I think we're on season 4 of that. On BET Plus, which is
and is always working. He's always working. He's on everything. He's always working.
So yeah, we're waiting to see.
So last thing you would say to somebody who was like hesitant about seeing the show, how would you get him to come on board?
Well, I mean, I think if I just think if you look at TV the way I do, I mean, I want to see something that inspires me to think a little bit. is interesting. I hate seeing shows where people do awful stuff to each other, but something that I can watch with my kids or with anybody. Something's going to be a little thought provoking. I think this is a show that's not so outrageous and so unbelievable that it forces me to buy into something. I think it's a very very interesting show, and I think if you like most people, I think you'll probably enjoy it. But who knows? Check it out, see what you think. I don't know, you know.
Well, thank you, Ernie. This is Ernie Hudson with blackfilm.com. I am Ro Carter, your host. Thank you, and check out Quantum Leap. Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much. Great talking to you, man. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. You as well. Keep doing what you do.